Morning. We're going to start. We are running a little late, so we're going to get moving as soon as possible. If the members will take their seats and the visitors retire behind the rail. Thank you very much. Before we start, I'm going to ask if anyone has a cell phone or any other type of electronic device that makes noise, could you please turn it off or turn it on airport mode? I appreciate you. Oh, there's one. Appreciate your cooperation on that matter. We're going to have our invocation, but before we do that, I would ask Councilman Domb, he wants to make a quick note.
Thank you, Council President, fellow colleagues. I just wanted to mention how I met Reverend Purvis of the Trumpet of Zion Church at 17th and Clearfield. And it happened when I was out campaigning before the primary. And I went to his church at 17th and Clearfield, and they actually said to me, "We want you to take a walk around the neighborhood and look at the real estate first before you come to the church." So I said, sure. I took a tour around for an hour and a half, went to the church, sat in the back row. It's a small church. And there was a woman sitting in front of me with an 8-year-old. And the pastor said, at some point in the service, he'd like everybody to stand up and tell a story, that good thing that happened to him during the week. And the person in front of me with the 8-year-old stood up, her name was Julie, and said, "I got a part-time job at the Salvation Army for $8 an hour, so I can pay my electric bill of $92.42. I remember that number. And I leaned over, and I said, you know what? After she sat down, I gave her $100 and said, "Pay your electric bill, but more importantly, here's my business card. Call me, because you're going to be a receptionist there. I may have an opening in my office." She called me. I hired her. She worked full-time. This week, she got a job at CHOP with all the benefits, $18 an hour, and she's back in the system. I just wanted to mention that because I thought it was a great story of somebody rising up from $8 an hour part-time at Salvation Army, suffering from an electric bill, to now she's got a great job. So Reverend Purvis, thank you. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you so much, Councilman. We always need to hear good stories, particularly in this place. So to give our invocation this morning, the chair recognizes Reverend William A. Purvis of Trumpet of Zion Tabernacle Church. He is here today as a guest of Councilman Domb. I'd ask all guests and visitors and members to please rise. Amen.
Thank you, President Council.
You're welcome.
Let us go before the Lord. God our Father, we come seeking your presence and your help. For we realize that without you we can do nothing. We ask that even now that as this council go forth and the issues that may be discussed, that you would just give them the direction for the decisions which need to be made. We know that, again, we need your strength. We pray that for each position that is held here, that, Father God, Lord, you would give clear directions. You would give them clear vision for the good of this city and for the people of this city. And when it is all said and done, may you yourself be glorified. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Pastor, for those inspiring words. Appreciate it. Council, be at ease. Thank you very much. Thank you, Pastor. Before we proceed, Chair would like to recognize Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President, for recognizing me for the purpose of joining with Councilman Brian O'Neill, along with Councilwoman Gim and all members of council, in asking for a moment of silence, honoring the legacy and life of Christopher Tricky Moss, who was the 62-year-old facility mechanic who was tragically injured in the explosion that took place at the F.S. Edmonds School in January. Just wanted to note for the record that Mr. Tricky Moss leaves behind a wife along with 3 adult children and 2 grandchildren. And while the explosion took place at F.S. Edmonds in the 9th, he is a resident of the 10th Councilmatic District. So while our body, all members, will send formal condolences to the family, we deemed it appropriate to ask for a moment of silence on his behalf, and we thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Will you please stand for a moment of silence? Thank you. The next order of business is the approval of the journal of the meeting of Thursday, May 12, 2016, and the chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, May 12, 2016 be approved.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, May 12, 2016 stand approved. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and the journal is approved. The next order of business is request for leave of absence, and the chair recognizes Councilman Heenan.
Thank you, Council President. On behalf of the majority, a leave of absence is requested for Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Councilman. Leave shall be granted. Chair recognizes Councilman O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Republicans, there are no requests for leave of absence.
Chair thanks the gentleman. At this time, I would like to dispense with the regular order of business, and I would like to thank everyone who has taken time out of their busy day to come down to witness their government in action. We truly hope that your stay here today is a pleasurable one and a knowledgeable one. We appreciate you so much that we, frankly speaking, hope that you enjoy it so much that you come back again. All right? So again, thank you all for coming down. We look forward to a very successful session. This time, the chair recognizes council members Blackwell and Domb, who will present a resolution recognizing Philadelphia police officer Jesse Hartnett. Would Officer Hartnett and those accompanying him please join the council members at the podium? And also we have Councilman Jones, Councilman Heenan, Councilwoman Reynolds-Brown, Councilwoman Keona Sanchez, Councilman Keada Johnson, and Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. This has been a long time coming. Councilman Domb talked about it. We said it's the mighty 18th, and we got together, and it's taken us this long to get him, but that's the way it is sometimes, and we're just grateful that this day has finally come. And we thank all of those who are with him. Certainly, we see our police community relations officer on the 18th. We see our captain on the 18th. We see Inspector Johnson and all of those who are here. We have from the FOP, certainly the President McNesby was here. He did leave his legislative person, Denofa, here, and all those who have come that I haven't seen. We're grateful and honored to make this presentation and are glad that we got it in and leave before we recess. Resolution recognizing and honoring Philadelphia police officer Jesse Hartnett for exhibiting undeniable bravery, resilience, and dedication to protect the city of Philadelphia in the face of mortal danger. Whereas the Council of the City of Philadelphia is pleased and proud to honor Police Officer Jesse Hartnett, a 4-year veteran in the 18th District, and
Whereas on the evening of January 7, 2016, at approximately 11:30 p.m., at or around the corner of 60th and Spruce in West Philadelphia, a gunman stormed officers' marked patrol car and unloaded a gun at Officer Hartnett.
Whereas, despite being shot in the left arm multiple times, Officer Hartnett, a 4th District resident, demonstrated his valor and courage by radioing for help, stepping out of the police car, successfully chasing down and shooting the assailant, Edward Archer, who was apprehended a block away by responding officers. And
whereas the assailant, believing that the police defend laws that are contrary to the teachings of the Quran, stated, "I follow a law. I pledge my allegiance to the Islamic State, and that's why I did what I did." And
whereas in consideration of the City of Philadelphia's founding principles of religious freedom and tolerance, our mayor, James Kenney, said the shooting had nothing to do with Islam and that this does not represent the religion in any shape or in any form or in any of his teachings. And
Whereas Police Officer Hartnett, who miraculously survived the attack, sustained injuries to his arm and nerves, which will require multiple surgeries. And
whereas we echo Police Commissioner Ross's comment that it was Officer Hartnett's will to live undoubtedly saved his life, and we were so ever grateful and thankful that he is here today.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the City of Philadelphia hereby recognizes and honors Philadelphia Police Officer Jesse Hartnett for exhibiting undeniable bravery, resilience, and dedication to protecting the City of Philadelphia in the face of mortal danger, and further resolved that an engrossed copy of this resolution be presented to Philadelphia Police Officer Jesse Hartnett as a sincere expression of the Council of the City of Philadelphia's gratitude, admiration, and recognition. I would just like to add that since this happened, you guys, Ellie and Jesse, are engaged, right? Yes. And which is great. And also, I understand that you like to get married. That's right. And I understand that maybe the mayor of Philadelphia will be able to marry you. Maybe our council president can help arrange that with you. So, thank you, congratulations, and tremendous praise.
next year.
At this time, the chair would like to recognize Officer Hartnett for remarks.
City Council, thank you very much for having us here. Lily and I were greatly appreciative of this award. It's very nice to be recognized and get through what we've been through. The past few months have been very busy in the hospital, in and out, doctor's appointments and stuff. So it's very nice to be recognized, and we greatly appreciate it, and I thank you very much, City Council.
All right. Councilor Biddies. Thank you. Again, thank you to the officer, a true hero. The next order of business is communication, and the chair requests that the Sergeant of Arms delivers the messages from the mayor to the chief clerk. Mr. Decker, please read those messages.
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, I'm pleased to advise you that on May 17, 2016, I signed the remaining bills which were passed by Council at its session on May 5, 2016, with the exception of Bill number 160073, which I am returning without my signature. And I am transmitting herewith for the consideration of your honorable body an ordinance authorizing the Director of Planning and Development on behalf of the City to file applications with the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development for a Community Development Block Grant to participate in the Home Investment Partnership and Emergency Solutions Grant Program and for a Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS grant. And an ordinance authorizing the City Treasurer to enter into an amendment agreement with Wells Fargo Bank for the provision of payroll banking services to the City. And an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to convey to the Philadelphia Authority for Industrial Development all or part of 1611 through 41 Rowan Street. And an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to grant to the owner of 1140 Rear 15th Street an easement across a portion of a certain parcel of land known as 1129 South Sydenham Street. And an ordinance amending Chapter 10600 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Public Places Prohibited Conduct by adding a new section 10615 entitled Disorderly Conduct and Related Offenses to prohibit certain types of disorderly public conduct and to provide for penalties, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. You have any additional communications?
I had none, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. The next order of business is the introduction of bills and resolutions, and the chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Good morning, Mr. President. I offer one bill.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
An ordinance amending Title 19 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Finance, Taxes, and Collections by adding a new chapter 194100 entitled Non-Reusable Beverage Container Tax.
That bill will be referred to committee. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I introduce one bill on your behalf, one on behalf of the administration, and also a non-privileged resolution on behalf of myself, co-sponsored by Councilman O, Councilman O, and Councilwoman Parker. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
An ordinance authorizing the City Treasurer on behalf of the City to enter into an amendment agreement with Wells Fargo Bank for provision of payroll banking services to the City.
Bill will be referred to committee.
And an ordinance authorizing the Director of Planning and Development on behalf of the City to file applications with the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development for a Community Development Block Grant to participate in the Home Investment Partnership Program and the Emergency Solutions Grant Program and for a Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS grant.
Referred to committee.
And a privileged resolution recognizing and honoring Philadelphia Veronica Michael for her exemplary service to the City of Philadelphia with special acknowledgement for her leadership at the legendary Blue Horizon and her work in West Philadelphia at the Paul Robeson House.
And that will be on this week's final passes calendar. Chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I offer three bills, two on your behalf and one co-sponsored with myself and Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Sarah Street, Wildey Street, Shakamaxon Street, and the Delaware Expressway.
Bill will refer to committee.
And an ordinance authorizing the transfer in appropriations for fiscal year 2017 from the general fund, the mayor, Office of Community Schools, and Universal Pre-K to the general fund, the Director of Finance contribution to school district.
Be referred to committee.
And an ordinance amending Section 9212 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Newsstands by revising the requirements for sales from newsstands by permitting newsstands to sell additional products and services.
And that bill will be referred to committee. And the chair recognizes Councilman Heenan.
Thank you, Council President. Today I offer one bill.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance amending Chapter 2600 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Standards of Conduct and Ethics to restate and revise conflict of interest prohibitions and related provisions and provisions pertaining to public disclosure of conflicts of interest.
Bill will be referred to committee. And the chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Good morning, Mr. President. Today I offer 3 bills, 1 privilege resolution, non-privilege.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Parkside Avenue, Belmont Avenue, Girard Avenue, Marion Avenue, and 52nd Street.
Referred to committee.
And an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Henry Avenue, Coulter Street, Schoolhouse Lane, Wissahickon Avenue, and Lincoln Drive.
Referred to committee.
And an ordinance amending Chapter 10600 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Public Places with Prohibited Conduct by adding a new section 10615 entitled Disorderly Conduct and Related Offenses to prohibit certain types of disorderly public conduct and to provide for penalties.
Referred to committee.
And a privilege resolution authorizing the Committee on Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs to hold hearings on the possibility of developing, designing, and constructing a public off-highway vehicle park in the city of Philadelphia.
And that will be on this week's final passes calendar. The chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Council President, I had 2 bills and 1 resolution.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Grays Ferry Avenue, Kimball Street, 25th Street, and Washington Avenue.
Referred to committee.
And an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the city to grant to the owner of 1140 Rear South 15th Street an easement across a portion of a certain parcel of land known as 1129 South Sydenham Street.
Referred to committee.
And an ordinance authorizing Philadelphia License Number 1 to install, own, and maintain an open-air sidewalk cafe at 1200 South 21st Street.
And that will be on this week's final passes calendar. Was it Bill? 3? Okay. Sorry, that will be referred to committee. And the chair recognizes Councilwoman Kiona Sanchez.
Thank you. I have 4 bills, 1 non-privileged resolution, and 1 privileged resolution.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
An ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Front Street, Coral Street, Boston Street, Emerald Street, Haggard Street, and Kensington Avenue. And an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by East Wing of Hocking Street, Adams Avenue, Bristol Street Extended, and the Frankfort Creek. And an ordinance providing for an exemption from charges relating to stormwater management and disposal for community gardens operated for community benefit and producing food or non-food crops. And an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the city to convey to the Philadelphia Authority for Industrial Development all or part of 1611 through 41 Rowan Street.
Thank you. Those 4 bills just read by the Chief Clerk will be referred to the appropriate committees.
And a privileged resolution recognizing and honoring Consul Carlos Gerald Cabrales on 25 years of outstanding public service to Mexico and the city of Philadelphia.
It will be on this week's final passes calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority without consideration deeds conveying conditional fees simple title to search city on lots of pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements are on situated in the 19th and 33rd wards of the city of Philadelphia.
And that will be on next week's final passes calendar. Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. Today I have a 1 privileged resolution co-sponsored by Council members Johnson, Domb, and Tautenberger. And also introducing a non-privileged resolution co-sponsored by Council members Gim and Squilla.
Thank you, Councilman.
A privileged resolution honoring Pierce College for its 150 years of providing an affordable education to working-class students.
This week's final passes calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution respectfully urging the General Assembly to restore funding for human services programs to historic levels and to put mechanisms in place to assure any future budget impasse or budget delay does not become a burden on the citizens or city and county of Philadelphia.
And that will be on next week's final passage calendar. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no bills or resolutions.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Domb.
Thank you, Council President. No bills or resolutions today.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Kim.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Morning.
No bills or resolutions today.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Taubenberger.
Good morning, Council President and colleagues. I have no bills or resolutions this morning.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have one bill.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning by revising requirements for preliminary plat approval.
That bill will be referred to the appropriate committee, and the chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of Councilman Squilla, I offer 4 bills, 1 privileged resolution and 1 non-privileged resolution.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
An ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning, including by amending Chapter 14500 entitled Overlay Zoning Districts by modifying the boundaries of the Old City Residential District area of the Center City Overlay District and by revising parking and loading requirements. And an ordinance authorizing Kubiol Ben Ayed to install, own, and maintain an open-air sidewalk cafe at 906 Christian Street. And an ordinance authorizing the revision of lines and grades on a portion of City Plan Number 27S by striking from the City Plan and vacating Shunk Street from Swanson Street to Vandalia Street. And an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the city to accept title to all or a portion of the parcels of land commonly known as 1035 through 37 South 6th Street and 1028 through 32 South Fairhill Street.
Those bills just read by the Chief Clerk will be referred to the appropriate committees.
And a privileged resolution authorizing the Joint Committees on the Environment and Streets and Services to hold hearings to explore the feasibility of the curbside recycling of number 6 plastics expanded polystyrene foam products.
This week's final passage calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority without consideration deeds conveying conditional fees, simple title to serve city on lots of pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situate in the 25th Ward of the City of Philadelphia.
Next week's final passage calendar. And Councilwoman, did you have bills for you? Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I offer 1 bill and 3 privileged resolutions.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you.
An ordinance amending Title 17 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Contracts and Procurement by requiring the city to pay its vendors promptly.
Refer to committee.
And a privileged resolution authorizing Council Committee on Public Health and Human Services to hold hearings concerning the recent state downgrade of Philadelphia's Department of Human Services license to provisional as a result of serious violations of child welfare laws.
And that will be on this week's final passage calendar.
And a privileged resolution authorizing Council's Committee on Public Health and Human Services to hold hearings on health delivery services for the deaf and hearing impaired.
This week's passage calendar.
And a privileged resolution authorizing Council's Committee on Finance to investigate and hold hearings on how ineffective enforcement of the city's liquor by the drink tax is causing millions in revenue to go uncollected, funds which could go to support schools in general and early childhood education in particular.
And that will be on this week's final passage calendar. The chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much, Council President. I offer 1 bill, 1 non-privileged resolution co-sponsored by Council members Reynolds, Brown, Bass, and Green.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance amending Title 9 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Regulation of Businesses, Trades, and Professions by adding 2 new categories of license entitled Transportation Network Company Driver and Transportation Network Company.
That bill will be referred to committee.
And a non-privileged resolution requesting that the governor and the Pennsylvania State Legislature amend the Medical Marijuana Act to allow doctors to prescribe medical marijuana as a direct alternative to opioid painkillers.
And that will be on next week's final passage calendar. Thank you very much. That concludes the introduction of bills and resolutions. We will now move to our reports from committee, and the chair recognizes Councilman Heenan for a report from the committee of the whole.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee of the Whole reports out 13 resolutions with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read that report.
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, the Committee of the Whole, which was referred Resolution Number 160255, entitled a resolution appointing Rashida Johnson to the Board of Directors of the Philadelphia Municipal Authority, and Resolution Number 160344, entitled a resolution appointing Christopher P. McGill to the Board of Directors for the Old City Special Services District, and a Resolution Number 160345, entitled a resolution appointing Lynn Martin Haskin to the Board of Directors for the Old City Special Services District, and Resolution Number 160346, entitled a resolution reappointing Jafar Maleki to the Board of Directors for the Old City Special Services District, and Resolution Number 160410, entitled a resolution approving the reappointment of Asia Coney as a member of the Board of Commissioners of the Philadelphia Housing Authority, and Resolution Number 160411, entitled a resolution approving the reappointment of Ethel M. Wise as a member of the Board of Commissioners of the Philadelphia Housing Authority, and Resolution Number 160413, entitled a resolution approving the reappointment of Lynette Brown So as a member of the Board of Commissioners of the Philadelphia Housing Authority, and Resolution Number 160414, entitled a resolution approving the reappointment of Julia Danzy as a member of the Board of Commissioners of the Philadelphia Housing Authority, and Resolution Number 160417, entitled a resolution approving the appointment of Fran McLaughlin as a member of the Board of Commissioners of the Philadelphia Housing Authority, and Resolution Number 160426, entitled a resolution approving the reappointment of Herbert Wetzel as a member of the Board of Commissioners of the Philadelphia Housing Authority, and Resolution Number 160427, entitled a resolution approving the reappointment of Reverend Bonnie Carmada as a member of the Board of Commissioners of the Philadelphia Housing Authority, and Resolution Number 160428, entitled a resolution approving the reappointment of Reverend Dr. Leslie Callahan as a member of the Board of Commissioners of the Philadelphia Housing Authority, and Resolution Number 160429, entitled a resolution approving the appointment of Frederick S. Purnell Sr. as a member of the Board of Commissioners of the Philadelphia Housing Authority. Respectfully reports it as considered the same and returns the attached resolutions to Council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. These resolutions will be placed on our final passes calendar at our next session of Council. The Chair now recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell for a report from the Committee on Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Finance reports out one bill with the favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Mr. Decker, please read that report.
The Committee on Finance, which is referred Bill Number 160248, entitled an ordinance amending Section 19-1806 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Authorization of Realty Use and Occupancy Tax by adding an exclusion from the tax for certain new businesses, all under certain terms and conditions. Respectfully reports that it is considered and amended the same and returns the attached bill to Council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of Bill Number 160248.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of Bills Number 160248. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. This bill will be placed on our first reading calendar today. Chair now recognizes Councilman Greenlee for a report from the Committee of Law and Government.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Law and Government reports one bill with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read the report.
The Committee on Law and Government, to which is referred Bill Number 160072, entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 9-1100 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Fair Practices Ordinance, Protections Against Unlawful Discrimination, by adding a section prohibiting employers from obtaining or using credit-related information regarding employees and job applicants in certain circumstances, under certain terms and conditions. Respectfully reports it as considered the same and returns the attached bill to Council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Chair again recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of Bill Number 160072.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of Bills Number 160072. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and this bill will be on our first reading calendar today. Thank you very much. The next order of business is consideration of the calendar. I note that the bills just reported from committee with the suspension of the rules have been deemed to have had its first reading. They will be on our second reading and final passage calendar at our next session of council. As there are no additional bills on the first reading calendar, the chair recognizes Councilman Heenan for the purpose of calling up bills and resolutions on the final passage calendar today.
Thank you, Mr. President. The following resolutions and bills are being called up from the second reading and final passage calendars today. Bill numbers 160418, 160475, 160-476, 160-477, 160-478, 160-479, 160-480, 160-482, 160-483, 160-485, 160-110, and all other bills and resolutions are being held.
Thank you. Before considering these bills and resolutions on the final passage calendar, we'll have our public comment session. It will go as follows. If you are interested in testifying on a bill or resolution that is on the final passage calendar today, if you have not already done so, I ask you to sign up at the table to my left. When your name is called, you will go to the podium in the middle of the chambers. There's a device. When that light on that device turns green, it will be your time to speak. When the light turns yellow, you will have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. When the light turns red, we would ask that you please adhere to the guidelines and conclude your remarks. You will be given 2 minutes. Thank you very much for your cooperation. Mr. Decker, call the first name.
Joe Danahill. Commenting on 160-475, 160-476, 160-478, 160-481, 160-480, 160-477, 160-479, and 160-482.
Good morning.
Morning. Now the council has been duly notified by a list of personal grievances given multiple times at public meetings. Your refusal to stop using the redevelopment authority is extraordinary and egregious. Each council member uses this apparently rogue and possibly unconstitutional agency. My home, 1038 West Wyoming Avenue, was taken without notification, without payment, and without due process. Notice of this should stop the council in its tracks. The people demand accountability. Yet council appears not to care. Yet council appears to violate laws. 42 U.S.C. 1982, 1983, 1985, 1986, among others, and their oaths of office. See Cooper v. Aaron. Council's behavior is quite apparently criminal. Council should defund the RDA and the land bank and demand the Attorney General investigate the RDA for missing money, unconstitutional and possibly criminal procedures. This is Council's fiduciary duty. RDA has seized more property than King George did, and that started the Revolutionary War. In addition, city attorneys are opposing my 7th Amendment right to jury trial in the very city where it was drafted. This is in clear violation of your oath to support the Constitution. Can anyone be above the law? Was quoted by the constitutional delegate George Mason. Defund and investigate the RDA now and restrict the usage of the land bank until after a public meeting and report has reviewed these actions.
Thank you for your testimony, sir.
Hillary Leonardopoulos. Commenting on 160-483 and 160-485.
Morning.
Good morning. My name is Hillary Leonardopoulos, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Philadelphia Federation of Teachers this morning in favor of Resolution 160-483 and 160-485. PFT truly appreciates Council's recognition that our children's learning conditions and their educators' working conditions are inextricably linked. There are a number of components in our collective bargaining agreement that speak to the very issues at the forefront of debate and discussion in this councilmatic body. For example, our contract calls for a functional water fountain on every floor of every school building, calls for one counselor in every school, calls for class size limits. These are obligations that are contractual because they are pedagogically and morally sound. The district for too long has accepted that oversized classes, frozen salaries, lack of access to supplies, and school closures are simply collateral damage in the cost of running an urban school district. But the PFT and this body has refused to be complacent in these conditions that affect our children, their families, and our educators every single day. Today in Philadelphia, there are 522 oversized classes. 522. And that's defined by our contract. Defined as more than 30 students in grades K to 3 and more than 33 students in grades 4 through 12. I've provided updated data to council this morning regarding exactly where those classes are and what size they are. You can look and see that there are 48 students in a chemistry class at Martin Luther King High School. 48 students in a school that was designated as a Promise Academy and in need of additional support. 42 students in a physics class at Northeast High School. 37 students in a second grade class at Bridesburg Elementary School. So for every student and every educator in the district, and for every one of the 43 seventh graders who are in a class at Bieber Middle School today, the PFT thanks Councilman Green, thanks Councilwoman Gim, and thanks the rest of the co-sponsors and signatories of these resolutions that are so important to our everyday lives. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
There are no other speakers on the public comment list, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. That concludes our public comment session for today. Mr. Decker, can you please read the title of 160418?
A resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority, without consideration, deeds conveying conditional fees, simple title to certain city-owned lots and pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situated in the 4th Ward of the City of Philadelphia.
Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it. Resolution 160418 has been adopted. Mr. Decker, 160475.
A resolution approving the redevelopment contract of the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority for the redevelopment and urban renewal of a portion of the Mantua urban renewal area identified by house number and street address as 3741 Aspen Street.
We'll have to come back. The sponsor is not in the room at the moment. Mr. Decker, please read the title of 160476.
A resolution...
Mr. Decker, hold on one second. Councilwoman's back. Can you read 475 again, Mr. Decker?
Thanks.
Resolution 160475, entitled A Resolution Approving the Redevelopment Contract of the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority for the redevelopment and urban renewal of a portion of the Mantua urban renewal area identified by house number and street address as 3741 Aspen Street.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption. Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. Resolution 160475 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 160476.
A resolution approving the redevelopment contract of the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority for the redevelopment and urban renewal of a portion of the Mantua urban renewal area identified by house number and street address as 3405 Wallace Street.
Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it. Resolution 160476 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 160477.
A resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority without consideration deeds conveying conditional fees, simple title to certain city-owned lots and pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situated in the 32nd Ward of the City of Philadelphia.
Chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of the resolution. Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. That resolution 160477 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 160478.
A resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to certain properties located in the 5th Councilman District pursuant to the requirements of the Commonwealth Land Bank Act.
Chair again recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of the resolution. Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it. 160478 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 160479.
A resolution approving the redevelopment contract of the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority for the redevelopment and urban renewal of a portion of the West Fairhill, East Tioga, Hunting Park urban renewal area identified by house number and street address as 3110 North Percy Street.
Chair one more time recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of the resolution. Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Resolution 160479 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 160480.
A resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to certain properties located in the 2nd Councilman District pursuant to the requirements of the Commonwealth Land Bank Act.
Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson for a motion.
Council President, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it. Resolution 160480 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 160. 482.
A resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority without consideration deeds conveying conditional fee simple title to certain city-owned lots or pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon situated in the 19th and 23rd wards of the city of Philadelphia.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Fiona Sanchez.
Thank you. I move for its adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it. Resolution 160482 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 160483.
A resolution urging the School Reform Commission, Superintendent William Height, and the School District of Philadelphia to actively negotiate a mutually agreeable new contract with the Philadelphia Federation of Teachers that provides adequate staffing of our schools, acknowledges the contributions and sacrifices of teachers and other staff, and respects both seniority and traditional payment structures, like step pay.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Fiona Sanchez. Oh, I'm sorry. Who was? All right, he was pointing over. Is it you?
Yeah.
You. All right, Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. I believe Councilman Parker was going to make a comment regarding this resolution. No? Okay. Thank you, Council President. Before I make the motion to adopt this resolution, I just want to thank the many hardworking teachers in the city of Philadelphia. My son in a few weeks will be graduating from Houston Elementary School to go to high school, and having a child with autism, something that we did not think would happen, and to the thousands of children all around the city of Philadelphia who will be able to graduate through the hard work of the teachers in the city of Philadelphia. So I move for the adoption.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution 160483 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 160445.
A resolution calling upon the School Reform Commission, Superintendent William Height, and the School District of Philadelphia to address widespread overcrowding in Philadelphia schools by enacting a lower class size in kindergarten through third grade and ending the practice of split-grade classrooms unless specifically designed for pedagogical purposes.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gimm.
Thank you very much, Council President. I want to acknowledge my co-sponsor on this, Councilwoman Blackwell, and all members of City Council who heard this week from the School District of Philadelphia about the widespread inadequacies in our district. Primarily, many of them have impacted the issue of class size. Ms. Leonardopoulos from the Philadelphia Federation of Teachers has done yeoman's work in terms of categorizing the widespread nature of the class size issue. It also complements Councilman Green's resolution around the school district's contract. But clearly, if we're going to see some advancement on this, we're going to need the school district to understand council's position on the teacher's contract, on overcrowding, and on ending split grades. We did have a victory this week in the superintendent acknowledging that he will not continue with the practice of split grades next year due to budgetary purposes, and I thank City Council for that because we were not in that place a few months ago. So thank you, and with that, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and Resolution 160485 is adopted. We have no bills. Mr. Decker, you have any additional resolutions? Oh, I'm sorry, you have an amendment. We do have an amendment. Mr. Decker, read the title 160110.
An ordinance amending Chapter 17600 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Procurement Price Preferences by adding a preference for alternatives to expanded polystyrene.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. I say thank you to Councilman Taltenberger for working closely with my office, and I move to amend Bill number 160110.
Thank you. There's a motion for the amendment of 160110. It's been moved and properly second. All in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it. Bill number 160110 is amended. It will be placed on our second reading and final passage calendar at our next session of council. Mr. Decker, do you have any additional resolutions?
A resolution recognizing and honoring Veronica Michael for her exemplary service to the city of Philadelphia, with special acknowledgement for her leadership at the legendary Blue Horizon and her work in West Philadelphia at the Paul Robeson House, introduced by Councilwoman Blackwell.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it. That resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the Committee on Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs to hold hearings on the possibility of developing, designing, and constructing a public off-highway vehicle park in the city of Philadelphia, introduced by Councilman Jones.
Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for its adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing and honoring Consul Carlos Gerald Cabrales on 25 years of outstanding public service to Mexico and the city of Philadelphia, introduced by Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Thank you. I move for its adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution honoring Pierce College for its 150 years of providing an affordable education to working-class students, introduced by Councilman Green.
Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the Joint Committees on the Environment and Streets and Services to hold hearings to explore the feasibility of the curbside recycling of No. 6 plastics, expanded polystyrene foam products, introduced by Councilwoman Bass on behalf of Councilman Squilla.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing Council's Committee on Public Health and Human Services to hold hearings concerning the recent state downgrade of Philadelphia's Department of Human Services license to provisional as a result of serious violations of child welfare laws, introduced by Councilwoman Bass.
Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing Council's Committee on Public Health and Human Services to hold hearings on health delivery services for the deaf and hearing impaired in the city of Philadelphia, introduced by Councilwoman Bass.
Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing Council's Committee on Finance to investigate and hold hearings on how ineffective enforcement of the city's liquor by the drink tax is causing millions in revenue to go uncollected, funds which could go to support the schools in general and early childhood education in particular, introduced by Councilwoman Bass.
Chair one more time recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
There are no other resolutions on the final passage calendar, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. Are there any speeches on the part of the minority? Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much, Council President. First, I'd like to just alert the public that after 7 community hearings on the issue of how the city can better address handling the heroin and opioid epidemic in our city and throughout our country, the hearing with the Public Health Committee chaired by Councilman Cindy Bass will be held tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. I'd like to say that I'm very pleased that Secretary Gary Tennis, the Commonwealth Secretary for Drugs and Alcohol Programs, will be attending, as well as elected leaders from Montgomery County, Chester County, Delaware County, and Bucks County, because I think it's important that we look at this problem from a more comprehensive point of view in how our counties can join together to address this problem. The other thing I'd like to add is that the next day on Saturday, I'd like to remind the public that we are having an event, a free event for girls ages 10 to 17. It's our Cheer Leaders program, which really brings young ladies together with cheerleaders from the Sixers and from our universities and from science cheerleaders all around not only the activity of cheerleading, but also scholarships to college, careers, and other types of leadership programs. We have a special guest. That'll be Councilwoman Cindy Bass, seated to my right, and I appreciate her coming, and I invite all council members to stop by. It's a thrill for many of our girls to to meet a council member and to get a picture taken with a Sixer dancer or any one of our cheerleaders. And we'll get a demonstration from West Philadelphia High School cheerleaders who have been to the Nationals and other things like that. So with that, thank you very much, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Speech is on behalf of the majority, and the chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Even though I understand she'll be with us for one more week, I want to take this opportunity to note that, unfortunately for us, we're losing one of the fine attorneys in our staff. Rosalie Leonard will be retiring in the beginning of June, and I believe all of us who interacted with Rosalie have taken advantage of her legal talents. I know I have, and I know how much she's been a positive for City Council. I have to add, though, I'm not surprised she's talented since she was born, raised, and still lives in that great neighborhood of Fairmount. So, you know, we produce good people over there. So while we'll certainly miss her, we're glad she'll be able to spend more time with her family, particularly her grandchildren. And I'm sure all members will join me in thanking Rosalie for her service and wish her a great and healthy retirement. All the best, Rosalie. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Absolutely. I miss her already. She hadn't left yet. Chair recognizes Councilman Heenan.
Thank you, Council President. So today, the introduction of a container tax proposal made the myth of a grocery tax a reality. The container tax touches nearly every drink on your grocery store shelves. Compared to the sugar-sweetened beverage, this tax will be impossible to avoid. And most importantly, this container tax is said to generate only $64 million. That's at least $30 million short of the money we need to fund our recreation centers, community schools, universal pre-K, and notwithstanding our pensions. So while I welcome the conversation and the debate about this proposal, I encourage everyone to remember, throughout this budget process, we need to build a consensus around a proposal that will help fully fund all of the programs and initiatives that we expressed throughout the days of this budget process. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to make sure that Councilman Greenlee's kind remarks and appreciation for Rosalie Leonard is bipartisan.
Absolutely.
Rosalie probably knows as much or more zoning law and is a very good lawyer on top of it than most of the big shots in the city, and has been extremely effective when we had to really put the pedal to the metal on some issues over the years, including the zoning commission and all the work that was done. Rosalie was in the background giving advice and counsel. And if we're really smart, Mr. President, we will make sure that she doesn't change her cell phone number.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I concur. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. One of my favorite topics, stop and goes in the neighborhood, which we recently found out have not, for the most part, I won't say everyone, but for the most part have not been paying liquor by the drink tax. And so when we reached out and asked why, many in our city government, and particularly in revenue, did not realize that there are shots of liquor that can be sold at stop and goes, because it's primarily in certain neighborhoods. In those neighborhoods, North Philadelphia, parts of Logan, Alany, I'm sure other parts of the city, but in my district, it's a very widespread practice that's happening on a regular basis. Right now, our liquor by the drink tax is something that's almost like an honor system. You can pay a little something, you can send the city something. It's unlikely that you will be audited. It's unlikely that there will be any repercussions for your underpayment. But the problem is that this underpayment really could go towards universal pre-K. This could go to the Philadelphia School District. We estimate that there's at least $36 million out there in uncollected liquor by the drink tax annually. And I think it's time that we step up and pay attention and do something about it. So look forward to the hearing on that issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to join Councilman Greenleaf first in saluting Rosalie Leonard. She worked very closely with our office around the Mayor's Commission for Women and all of the lead-in work that ultimately resulted in that going on the ballot. So know that your value will be missed, Rosalie, and we thank you for your contribution. Secondly, I was intending to act assertively on the container tax bill that I introduced this morning, but since there is such great interest, I'm going to seize the moment and start with the end in mind and say that I look forward to working with the administration. I look forward to working with your office and the competent, capable staff that have been working closely with my office in bringing this bill to reality. I look forward to working with Councilman Heenan and his staff and all of the members of council that will move us to crafting a measure that is less regressive, more sustainable, and casts the net wider. That's what I'm asking my colleagues to keep in mind. I learned 15 years ago during the administration of Mayor Street, when we were debating stadiums, the value and the beauty of multiple ideas around a measure so that there's a win-win for everybody. I also learned that there's no monopoly on ideas. And so my staff, as I requested, did the homework, which is what we do well. I asked for alternatives along with Councilwoman Blackwell from the very beginning with the Mayor's Commission on Pre-K. Let's look and see what's out there in the universe. And we discovered Baltimore. So this is not an original idea, but it was successfully passed in Baltimore, and anything that's successfully done by a peer city gives me the license to explore how we can do it, look at it, craft it in Philadelphia in a way that there's a win-win for everybody. So let me close by saying this. If the goal is to provide a sustainable proposal that will allow for universal pre-K, which is a laudable goal by our mayor, a necessary initiative, long overdue, and as I just learned yesterday, 80% of our city's voters said yes to this ballot question. So they are expecting us to do something. So if our goal is to provide a sustainable proposal that will allow for universal pre-K for all, improvements in access to recreation centers for all, the rebuild of recreation centers by people who live in those neighborhoods. Let me repeat that. The rebuild of those rec centers and libraries by people who live in those neighborhoods for all, community schools for all, then this tax needs to be shared by all, from Soda to Perrier. I look forward to the debate. That's the business we're in, and legislation happens when we are all focused on a goal and looking for a win-win scenario. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Kiona Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to add my voice to the overall agreement that we all have with the mayor's proposals. All of us who've worked around education in this council chamber have been consistent over the 8 years that we need more funding for our schools, that pre-K is hugely important, and I can say as a mother, there's no doubt that goal should be met. And I'm so glad that we are all in agreement to be there. And I'm so glad that the budget process allows us to have this broad-based conversation. So I want to thank Councilwoman Bass for looking for more revenue for schools, because this is not about this year, but about how we move forward. As we've learned, the school district and others will be coming back to us to ask for additional resources. And I want to thank Councilwoman Bondell Reynolds Brown for her leadership in looking for sustainable ways to do what we all think is so vitally important for our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief. Just wanted to note for the record that this council celebrated the life, or recognized the life and legacy of the late Mr. Samuel Staten, Sr. A few weeks ago, and that on tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. at Bright Hope Baptist Church, there will be a memorial service where Philadelphians from all walks of life will gather to celebrate his life and legacy. The doors doors open at 4:30 p.m. Program begins at 5:30 p.m. And again, Bright Hope Baptist Church, 12th and Cecil B. Moore Avenue. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman, for that reminder. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, would like to thank Ms. Leonard for all she's done, and I want to piggyback on the statements that Councilwoman Bass made. It's just ironic that we've been through all this before. We created the name in this council, Stop and Go, out of an experience we had at the Purple Fox, the then Purple Fox at 49th and Baltimore. And it's just unfortunate that after all we've gone through, here we are again, fighting the same battle, watching children buy a loaf of bread, and right next to them, somebody with a glass and a little shot window cut out so that a shot glass can be passed back and forth. We've been here before. But be that as it may, if a problem reoccurs and we have to revisit it and deal with it all over again, then that is what we must do. And so I look forward to working with her and all on council to rid ourselves of this problem again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Domb.
Thank you, Council President. Just want to mention that if there's one thing that I think this body knows is that I love to collect delinquent taxes. So I want to applaud Councilwoman Bass in this initiative with the liquor by the drink. I think that's great, and that should be enforced. And I think there are many other areas. We've sat through many of these budget meetings. We've heard the Revenue Department, from my fellow colleagues, just make sure you know about this important statistic. 78% of the delinquent real estate taxes are from commercial and investors. 78%. That's a powerful statement, and that should be collected. So I think we're going to look for more collections. You know, we hope to make government more efficient than it is today, and there's a lot of savings within government I think that can be found. So I want to applaud you for this initiative. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to be clear in, just my perspective. I'm not convinced at this point in time. I don't know. I'm open-minded about the pre-K program. So while there are people who are, very satisfied that the pre-K program is an important program, I don't know what it is yet. And I certainly would like to know. I know it's not universal because we cannot afford that. And I don't know what the curriculum is. I'd like to know what the curriculum is. I am concerned that in 2019, the school district will need $140 million. And I'm concerned that in 2020, the school district will need $375 million. And I'm very concerned that in 2021, the school district will need $600 million. They will be going to the state, but other than that, they come to the city at a time where the cigarette tax are sunsetting, where our PICA wage tax will be concluding in 2023, and the city says we're going to lose $350 million in revenues per year unless that is addressed. So I would love to see universal pre-K if we could afford that, but I'm a little more concerned about K through 4 and providing a good quality education in all our public schools. And I think if we can show that from pre-K there would be quality education K through 12, then I could focus on pre-K. But I'd like to know after pre-K, after whatever it is, what happens once they leave there. And I would like to say that I would like to focus on good quality public education in the city of Philadelphia. And so I remain open-minded, but I would like to know these things. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
And could I also say that the bill that I introduced today has to do with Uber and Lyft, which I know there's ongoing issues, but at least on my part, they should be regulated. They are operating, they're commercial. They are reducing revenues in our city. They are an important part of our transportation system, and there's an important place for them, but they're not licensed, they're not regulated, and they're not paying fees. And if they would, conservatively, I believe we would pick up $6 million. between $6 and $10 million for our city. And the money, I think, is a critical issue. I don't think we should be regulating them for money's sake, but I think they should be regulated to be part of a growing mass transportation system. The regulation of them and the fees would generate $6 to $10 million by my estimate, and there's really no exact way of knowing at this point in time. But I do think that it is important that we receive the revenues from those business entities that are not paying anything into our city before we look at taxing entities that are already paying taxes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Kim.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I just wanted to thank our members of City Council. This week, the School District of Philadelphia came in for its budget hearings, and we heard some pretty stunning testimony at the time, including the fact that next year the School District of Philadelphia will spend $180 million, two-thirds of which will go towards charter expenses. And if we are going to reverse the flow of dollars and ensure that the district strives for somewhat of a balance around fiscal stability, we're going to need to make sure that the school district focuses on the young people and the communities, the issues and the things that students, families, and communities have long demanded. Among those is the fact that the School District of Philadelphia did not spend almost $65 million in money that was allocated but not delivered. Amongst that was more than $29 million in K-12 teachers. Among that was $9.5 million that should have gone towards building engineers and maintenance staff that are crucial to our safety. And among that was $17 million, more than 10% of the special education budget for low-incidence special needs students went unspent by the school district this year. Those are the kinds of things that we do not have. We, as council, for better or for worse, do function as a body that can provide oversight for. We clearly do not have a school reform commission that is on top of this stuff. And in part, I believe very strongly that City Council's hearings and its budget hearings provided an open forum and a place for dialogue and discussion and to highlight those kinds of concerns so that we can bring this issue to the forefront with them. On May 31st, they will pass a budget, and I hope that some of our members of City Council may join with us in at least witnessing what type of budget that they move forward with. But I assume that this is going to be a long discussion for the future and an urgent one even for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome.
I guess the rubbers get ready to meet the road. We're going to have to make some grown-up decisions coming up. But let me just remind you, I had an opportunity, along with Councilwoman Gim, to go out to Rhodes Elementary School. I think it's 27th and Clearfield.
29th.
Got it. That's right. You went there. And we walked through a building. We saw some bright points of light about climate and how kids are being treated. There was a closure there of the 23 schools. They merged, and it was a success. But still, they were getting by on bubble gum, duct tape, fixing things, patching things that should be provided in a predictable manner every year. So we went by there, they were getting ready to merge and take the principal out. We were able to stop that. And because of that, I guess I got invited back to be the keynote speaker, which I'm going to have to share with you, Councilwoman. You do the first half, I'll do the second half. But the point of this is, right down the street, you can walk into a stop and go, those same kids, and get a shot to drink and not walk down the street and join a football team, a baseball team, after school tutoring, not to mention daycare. None of those things are in there. And I remember a couple of years ago, as a freshman, and we did an analysis of an area and said, what are you more likely to run into when you live in this community and walk out the door? A book, a drink, a vegetable, or a gun? A book, a drink, a vegetable or a gun. We changed that paradigm in that community by opening up a ShopRite where they can get fresh vegetables. But you're still more likely when you walk out of there not to see a book, to get a drink, and to be victim of a gun. So we can debate how we do all we're supposed to do, but I bought into your community schools idea several budgets ago because it's a damn good idea. Those kids walk out that door, they have troubles that they bring from the community that need help from adults that are willing to help them survive. So we can debate whether it's a tomato or a tomato, but at the end of the day, the class that better add up is the math, because these things cost something. And we have to be willing to pay the price, because guess what? We do anyway on the other end. We go up to Gratisford and see gentlemen that you could trace back to the 4th grade that couldn't read up to grade level. The planners knew how many cells to build for them. We're not kicking the can down the road. We're going to make some grown-up decisions, and let's figure out the math. Thank you.
Thank you. There appear to be no additional speeches, so I would like to recognize Councilwoman Reynolds-Brown for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that council stand adjourned until Thursday, May 26, 2016 at 10 a.m.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second that council stand adjourned until Thursday, May 26, 2016. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you all very much.